Phil Mickelson won 45 PGA Tour events, lifted 6 major trophies, and spent 3 decades. Brian Rolapp's new return pathway welcome selected LIV stars back, but its 2022 major win cutoff leaves Phil's 2021 PGA Championship miracle 1 year outside the ropes. Convenient? That is one way to describe it. Another is a lifetime ban wearing a neat little business suit. Mickelson has spent years firing shots at tour leadership, and now the front office appears to hold the final putt. Is this fair punishment for a rebel who crossed the line, or a sickening rule designed to bury the man who exposed golf's civil war? The irony is thicker than Sunday rough. The tour preaches merit while sidelining a 45-time winner through a date on a spreadsheet. Hit that subscribe button right now, because we are uncovering whether Rolapp created a genuine road home or a private gate marked everyone except Phil. The actual rule sounds simple until you study the scorecard. Rolapp announced a returning member program for a narrow group of golfers who had competed in unauthorized events, spent at least 2 years away from PGA Tour membership, and won a major championship or the Players' Championship between 2022 and 2025. That window placed Brooks Koepka, Jon Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau, and Cameron Smith within reach of the clubhouse. Mickelson landed outside it because his latest major victory came at Kiawah Island in May 2021. That is the eligibility math. 4 championship seasons count. The season immediately before them does not. Phil did not miss the standard by 10 years, 10 trophies, or 10 bad rounds. He missed it by a date. Rolapp presented the program as a limited opportunity, not a permanent open door. Players had until February 2, 2026 to accept its terms. Those conditions were not exactly a free cart ride either. A returning star could lose access to the tour's equity program for 5 years, face restrictions on sponsor exemptions, and be required to make a major charitable contribution. Koepka accepted that route and agreed to donate $5 million. Reports estimated that his total lost benefits could climb far beyond that figure. So nobody can claim Rolapp handed out forgiveness like free-range balls. The price was heavy. Still, at least Koepka received a price. Mickelson did not receive the same menu. Here is where the conflict becomes explosive. The argument is not simply whether Phil deserves punishment. It is whether the tour designed a punishment that only certain rebels are allowed to finish serving. Supporters of Rolapp will say the cutoff is logical. LIV Golf began staging tournaments in 2022. So using championships won from that season onward identifies players who remained elite during the split. That explanation has some weight. Rahm won the 2023 Masters. Koepka captured the 2023 PGA Championship. Smith won the Open in 2022. DeChambeau lifted the 2024 U.S. Open trophy. Those were current high-value players who could immediately strengthen PGA Tour fields and television ratings. Fair enough. Yet that defense creates another uncomfortable question. If the system is based purely on present value, why wrap it in the language of championship merit? Just say the tour wants specific stars back. Golf fans can handle an honest ruling. What irritates people is watching a business decision dress itself as sacred sporting principle and then pose beside the trophy cabinet. Mickelson's URSUM makes the exclusion impossible to treat like ordinary paperwork. 45 PGA Tour victories place him 9th on the all-time list. His 6 majors include 3 Masters titles, 2 PGA championships, and 1 Open championship. He won his first tour event as an amateur in 1991, then became the oldest major champion in men's golf history when he conquered Kiawah at 50. That 2021 performance was not ceremonial golf. Phil defeated a major field while players nearly half his age tried to chase him down. None of this makes Mickelson innocent. He chose LIV Golf. He accepted an enormous reported contract and became one of the breakaway league's loudest architects. Before leaving, he accused the PGA Tour of obnoxious greed and argued that LIV created leverage to force change. Those attacks were not soft chips from the fringe. They were full swings at the institution where he had built his fame. The tour suspended players who competed in live events without releases. Court fights followed. Friendships fractured. Fans picked sides as if the Ryder Cup had been replaced by a family divorce with prize money. Mickelson was not merely another name in the field. He became the face of rebellion, and faces are harder for powerful organizations to forget. That history explains why many observers believe the cutoff was aimed at him even though no official document says so. Move the starting year back from 2022 to 2021, and Phil suddenly satisfies the championship requirement. Keep it where it is, and the most famous early LIV recruit remains outside. Maybe that is coincidence. Golf also has 4-inch cups, and this coincidence lands dead center. Still, we have to separate evidence from outrage. Rolapp has not publicly announced a lifetime ban on Mickelson. The returning member program was a special shortcut, not the only theoretical mechanism through which a former member could ever seek reinstatement. Phil's exclusion from that shortcut does not automatically equal a formal permanent suspension. Calling it a lifetime ban is an inference based on his age, damaged relationship, expired special window, and limited realistic roots back. That distinction matters. Rage is entertaining, but the scorecard still has to be honest. When reporters asked Mickelson about being excluded, he did not launch a fresh verbal grenade at Rolapp. He said he loved playing on LIV, loved being around the players there, and could not be happier. That response sounded calm, perhaps even dismissive. Yet silence can carry its own message. Phil did not beg. He did not praise the pathway. He simply acted as if the PGA Tour's door no longer mattered. Of course, this is Phil Mickelson. His relationship with restraint has occasionally resembled a driver's relationship with the parking brake. He has spent years criticizing tour leadership, its media rights, its control over players, and its handling of money. The larger slamming angle comes from that established war, not one newly verified speech about this particular rule. Rolapp, meanwhile, has tried to sell a different era. The former NFL executive entered golf preaching parity, scarcity, and simplicity. His leadership team wants the best players together more often, clearer stakes, and a product that casual viewers can understand without carrying a calculator around the back nine. The returning member program fits that business goal. Bring back a few valuable stars, make them pay a serious price, and avoid reopening every old argument. Now widen the lens, because Phil's case exposes a much bigger power struggle than one veteran trying to recover a membership card. Who gets to decide when punishment has been completed, and why should commercial value influence mercy? Koepka became the clearest test. He returned under strict conditions, surrendered years of potential equity benefits, accepted competitive limitations, and paid the charitable contribution. His comeback showed that crossing to LIV was not necessarily a one-way trip. However, it also showed that Rolapp could build a private bridge for chosen names rather than establish one transparent road for everyone. Patrick Reed offers another contrast. He was not eligible for the special program, but his path involved serving the standard waiting period and using past champion status, qualifying routes, or invitations when eligible. That suggests excluded players are not automatically banned for life. Yet Mickelson's situation remains unique because age changes every calculation. A 35-year-old can wait, rebuild his ranking, chase qualifiers, and fight through smaller events. Phil does not have a decade to climb the ladder. Time is already standing over his putt. Critics will answer with one blunt sentence: Phil knew the risk. LIV offered enormous guaranteed money, partly because joining meant leaving the PGA Tour ecosystem. Mickelson cannot cash the rebellion check and later complain that the old clubhouse changed the locks. Actions have consequences, and professional golf is not required to protect every legend from his own choices. That argument is powerful. It is also incomplete. The PGA Tour itself has changed since the split. Purses increased. Limited field signature events grew. Player equity arrived. Tour leaders adopted ideas that once sounded suspiciously close to the leverage Mickelson said LIV would create. Executives can insist those reforms were already developing, but the timing remains impossible to ignore. Phil may have burned bridges, yet the fire also forced everyone to notice cracks in the road. So, should the whistleblower receive credit, punishment, or both? Perhaps both is the honest answer. Mickelson can be self-interested and still identify real weaknesses. Rolapp can design a useful return program and still choose criteria that conveniently remove an unwanted headache. Two things can be true on the same scorecard. Golf commentators sometimes struggle with that because outrage prefers match play: one winner, one loser, no halves. Player reaction to the broader return debate has also shifted. Rory McIlroy, once one of LIV's fiercest critics, later said he could welcome defectors back if their return strengthened golf. Other tour members have demanded consequences, arguing that loyal players should not lose opportunities to stars who accepted guaranteed LIV money. That tension is reasonable. Imagine staying through the war, rejecting a giant offer, and then watching the biggest names stroll back into premium events because television executives missed them. Conversely, imagine claiming the PGA Tour represents the highest level of competition while deliberately excluding golfers capable of winning majors. A sports league protects credibility by enforcing rules, but it also protects credibility by assembling the strongest field. Rolapp is trying to balance justice, loyalty, entertainment, and revenue on the head of a tee. Nobody should pretend that calculation is easy. Here is the savage irony. Professional golf spent years telling fans it needed unity, then created a reunion policy with a guest list. Some rebels receive conditions, others receive silence. The sport wants healing, provided healing performs well in the correct demographic. And this is where Rolapp's polished rule becomes dangerous for the tour. If fans believe standards are tailored around names, every future decision will look less like governance and more like matchmaking. The upcoming 2028 structure makes that trust even more important. Rolapp's PGA Tour will split into a top championship series and a challenger series. The elite level is planned around larger purses, stronger fields, cuts, and no sponsor exemptions. Players outside the top lane will have to earn promotion through performance, including season-long places and immediate movement for multiple victories. Tour leadership calls that meritocracy. On paper, the model has appeal. Results should matter. Invitations should not become popularity coupons. Young golfers need a visible route upward, while established stars should feel pressure to perform. Yet Phil's exclusion gives skeptics an easy counterattack. How can the tour preach open competition while its reunion policy begins with a hand-picked championship window? There is also a historical question. Lifetime membership on the PGA Tour has traditionally been associated with 20 or more official victories, although it does not guarantee entry into every limited field. Mickelson cleared that victory mark twice over. His LIV participation, suspension, and membership status complicate what that old distinction means. If 45 wins cannot produce even a clear route to request a return, lifetime starts sounding like golf's version of a phone contract, permanent until the terms change. Rolapp could remove the suspicion by explaining the cutoff more directly. Why exactly 2022? Was the goal current competitiveness, connection to LIV's launch, legal simplicity, commercial relevance, or all four? Would a player outside the special program ever receive an individual review? Does past service carry any weight? Clear answers would not satisfy everyone, but they would stop the vacuum from filling with conspiracy. Phil could also clarify his position. Does he actually want to return? Or is this entire debate happening around a door he has no interest in opening? His public comments suggest contentment with LIV. Personal and family matters have also kept him away from much of the 2026 season, making golf politics far less important than whatever he is handling privately. We should not turn absence into evidence of a secret negotiation. That reality softens the title but deepens the tragedy. An effective lifetime separation does not require a dramatic courtroom verdict. Sometimes careers simply run out of calendar while powerful people avoid making a final announcement. The suspension remains. The shortcut expires. Competitive opportunities shrink. One season becomes another, and suddenly the farewell never happened. Fans deserve to know whether that is what we are watching. The likely outcome is not Rolapp marching to a microphone and declaring Phil banned forever. It is quieter. Mickelson stays with LIV or remains away for personal reasons. The tour continues without him. Its new structure arrives in 2028. Younger stars occupy the broadcast windows, and Phil's PGA Tour story becomes something discussed in past tense. No ceremonial final round. No repaired bridge. Just distance. Maybe that is the consequence he earned. Perhaps Rolapp's responsibility is to current members, not to a legend who helped lead a rival league. Loyalty has to mean something, especially to golfers who rejected LIV money and absorbed the chaos. Giving Phil a custom exemption could insult every player who stayed. Yet forgiveness also has to mean something if golf truly wants unity. A fair return system should set demanding conditions that any former member can understand. Waiting periods, fines, lost benefits, qualifying standards, and behavioral expectations. Make the road steep. Do not make it invisible. That would protect loyal players without turning executive preference into a hidden hazard. Phil might fail to qualify. He might refuse the terms. He might never apply. At least the result would come from a recognizable process rather than one suspicious date. Ultimately, Mickelson and Rolapp represent two competing versions of golf's future. Phil represents disruption, player leverage, guaranteed money, and the belief that old institutions only change when someone threatens their comfort. Rolapp represents controlled reform, premium competition, commercial discipline, and a tour determined to rebuild on its own terms. Neither side is operating from pure charity. This is professional sports. Even the moral high ground has hospitality tents. The public verdict will depend on what happens next. If Rolapp creates transparent pathways and treats comparable players alike, the Mickelson cutoff may look like a harsh but defensible line drawn during an emergency. Should exceptions keep appearing for commercially useful stars while Phil remains uniquely untouchable, suspicions will harden. Then the program will not look like meritocracy. It will look like selective peace. So here is the final question. Did Phil Mickelson receive the consequences of his own choices, or did Brian Rolapp build a return gate carefully measured to keep one man outside? Drop your verdict in the comments, like the video, and subscribe for the next update.